Learn how to create your own concrete rocks for building rock walls, fire pits, decorative pieces, and more. I have already created the mold box and laid out the rocks. The mold box was built by using plywood, plastic, and cardboard. The rocks are laid out so that their heights are as even as possible. Brush or spray a mold release onto the rocks. I have not come across a mold release that does not work well with ComposiMold. Just do not overdo it. Using too much mold release will cause undesirable lines and marks in the mold. Some examples of mold release that can be used are vegetable oil, WD-40, Vaseline, and silicone mold release. Once the mold release has been applied, it is recommended but not required for a medium coat of Bubble Buster to be sprayed. Bubble Buster is an easy method to reduce bubbles. It works by breaking the surface tension and allowing bubbles to rise rather than sticking to objects. Now that the rocks are wet with Bubble Buster, it is a good time to pour the ComposiMold. For this project, I used a double boiler to melt the ComposiMold, and I was forced to pour in increments because the double boiler couldn't hold enough material. When pouring in layers, the melted ComposiMold will melt and fuse into the layer that has already been poured. Be careful when handling ComposiMold because it will be hot. Gloves should be worn. Once all the ComposiMold has been poured, it is time to wait for it to solidify. For this mold, I waited overnight before removing the rocks from the mold. ComposiMold cure time will vary depending on the mold size and room temperature. This mold was 75 pounds of ComposiMold, and the room temperature was 50 to 60 degrees overnight. If your mold box was designed well and sprayed with mold release, it should be easy to remove. Just make sure not to use a mold box that can't be taken apart. The nice thing about ComposiMold is that it is flexible enough to remove objects without too much struggle, but still strong enough to create concrete rocks. While removing the rocks, I did a lot of trimming to reduce the undercuts. ComposiMold can be easily trimmed with a knife or scissors. But because ComposiMold is reusable, the pieces that you cut should be saved and reused when needed. As you can see, ComposiMold picks up very fine detail. You can also see that I did not clean the rocks very well, but the dirt can be easily brushed away. It is now time to prepare the mold for cement. Vegetable oil mold release works great with cement, and a thin, even layer should be applied to the mold. Other mold releases that work well with cement include WD-40, silicone mold release. So what I did here was poured a bunch of mold release in the mold, and now I'm wiping it away to make an even coat. I don't want any pooling because that will affect the cement or concrete mix. Okay, the mold is prepared and ready for concrete. I use Pro Finish 5000 by Quikrete because it works great with ComposiMold and cures fast. Other concrete and cement mixes work as well. Ideally, you want a concrete mix that needs very little water and has a fast cure time. Just make sure it doesn't create too much heat. If it does, keep your mold cold. If you are using the Pro Finish 5000, follow the directions and mix 3/4 of a gallon of water with 80 pounds of cement. This bag is 80 pounds, so I used 3/4 water with the entire bag of cement, and then I mixed it with a hand drill. The mixture will seem very thick, but that is normal. Just make sure your drill can handle it. Also, it is a lot easier to have help. If possible, have one person mixing while the other is pouring the concrete. But if no one is available, it is possible to do it alone. When molding large parts like this one, it is a good idea to use rebar or a metal mesh to increase the strength of the piece. Now that the rebar is in place, I can pour the concrete. As you can see, the concrete is a thick block, but with a little bit of work it will smooth out. The easiest way to even out the concrete to remove voids and air pockets is to pat the concrete with your hands, kick the mold, and shake the mold. But for even better results, set the mold on a vibrating table for a few minutes. The next step after the concrete has been poured and smoothed out is to wait. This piece was removed after 8 hours and looks great. For a smoother texture, a concrete mix with less rocks should be used, or add sand to a cement mix. A cement mix that works well with ComposiMold is Quickcrete Masonry Cement Type N. Let's get a closer look and examine the details. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, or you can email us at info@composimold.com. Thank you for watching, and for more information, please visit our website at www.composimold.com.